Hey people, John here from Fast Films, and today we're going to go through a 2011 action drama thriller movie called Columbiana. The opening scene shows a drug baron, Don Lewis, and his associate, Fabio Restrepo, having a conversation. Fabio informs Don Lewis he is no longer interested in their illegal activities and would like to quit. Fabio then hands over all their business data to Don Lewis. Before leaving, Lewis tells Fabio how much he'll miss the job. Upon getting to his car, Fabio informs his men that he is feeling that Don Lewis wants him dead, so he has to get out of the country right away. Fabio and his men quickly rush home, and Fabio informs his wife, Alicia, and daughter, Catalea, to prepare their things as they leave in 10 minutes. Fabio then brings out a memory card and hands it over to Catalea. He tells her that if anything happens, she should go to the U.S. Embassy and hand the storage over to them. He also writes down an address and puts it in her shirt pocket. He expresses his love for his daughter and informs her that he named her after a flower that grows in Colombia and called Catalea. Minutes later, Fabio and his family are about to start moving out when Don Lewis's goons arrive. Fabio and Alicia try to hold them off, but get shot dead right in front of their daughter. Alicia is seen sitting calmly while the shootout is happening. After the dust settles, Marco enters the building and asks Catalea if her father gave her anything to keep. Catalea says yes, and Marco asks for it. However, one of the goons wants to terminate Catalea, but Marco says she's just a kid and they need her alive. While Marco is trying to convince Catalea into giving him the storage card, she brings out a knife and punctures him in the hand. This then gives Catalea some seconds to escape through a window. Marco and his goons chase her through the streets of Bogotá for several minutes, but she outsmarts them and escapes into a tunnel system. Minutes later, Catalea emerges from the manhole and proceeds to the U.S. Embassy. She hands over the card to one of the agents and informs him that the card is her passport out of the country. Soon afterward, Catalea arrives in the United States of America and has her citizen's papers processed. She arrives at the address her father gave her and meets with Emilio, her uncle. Emilio welcomes her warmly and emotionally because he believed Catalea is dead. Shortly afterward, he takes her home to sleep. The next morning, Catalea wakes up and meets her grandmother. She then sits at the table to have breakfast and begs Emilio to teach her how to be a killer. Shortly afterward, Emilio takes Catalea to school so she can begin her education, but she refuses. Emilio then tells her that if she wants to be a perfect assassin, she has to be educated first. After hearing this, Catalea agrees to enroll at the school. 15 years later, Catalea runs her vehicle into a police car and gets arrested. Not long after that, some U.S. Marshals arrive at the station. The Marshals, who were transporting a gangster, seek refuge in a station to pass the night. During the night, Catalea changes into a jumpsuit and sneaks out of her cell. She avoids all the cameras and gets into the vents. She soon emerges at the gangster's cell and terminates him. She then sneaks around the multiple policemen and marshals looking for her. Seconds later, she is back in her cell room like nothing happened, and the cops are confused. The next day, Special Agent Ross of the FBI arrives to investigate the scene. He takes a look at the gangsters' bodies and sees a drawing on it. He realizes that this is the 22nd body to have the same drawing on it. He orders the police station to be locked down, but Catalea manages to leave before Ross gives the order. Outside the police station, Catalea removes the gloves, masking her fingerprints, and leaves the scene undetected. Agent Ross then orders that he wants to see the security tapes from last night and data on everybody that was in the station during the incident. Shortly afterward, Catalea goes to the public restroom to change her dress and hair. She then goes to the phone book where she contacts Emilio and informs him that the job is done. Catalea tells Emilio to send her regards to her grandmother before hanging up. In the next scene, Agent Ross and other agents can be seen trying to figure out the meaning behind the drawings. Ross suggests that the assassin is trying to send a message out to someone, but they don't know who they are. Ross then decides that it's time to put it out to the press. He tells his agents to paste the article in newspapers and hopefully it'll draw the assassin out. Later on, a CIA agent, Richard, is seen visiting Don Lewis at his new residence in New Orleans. He informs Lewis that he agreed to share every information he has with the authorities, and that is the reason he is extradited from Colombia. Lewis assures Richard he's given him everything. Richard suspects that one of Fabio's family is responsible for the assassinations. After Richard leaves, Lewis berates Merrick for not terminating Catalea because he is very sure that she is the one behind the terminations. The next scene shows Catalea arriving at her home. She has a giant painting of Catalea on her wall. She dances to a tune and cleans herself up while enjoying the strawberry flavor lollipop. Later that night, Catalea visits her boyfriend Danny, and the duo make out. Danny tries to know more about her, but she won't give him any definite answer. The next morning, Catalea wakes up and leaves Danny in bed. She then meets up with Emilio at a laundry shop and is told that her grandma misses her. Emilio tells her to find time to visit her. He then gives her details of her next target, William Woodgard. Before leaving, Emilio shows Catalea a newspaper showcasing the mysterious Terminator as the Tag Killer. Up next, Ross tries to piece together the meaning of the drawings when a janitor passes by and says the drawing is Catalea. He informs him that the flower grows in Colombia. Ross tries to check the database about anything related to Catalea, but he gets denied by the CIA. Soon afterward, Catalea visits one of her associates, who's in charge of the warehouse where she keeps her guns and passports. She also has 2 large dogs that she usually feeds and trains when she is there. The next scene opens in William's house. He's seen having fun with various girls at his party. While having his fun, he mentions to one of the girls to be careful around his pool filled with sharks. He tells them a drop of ichor could set all of them loose. Later that night, Catalea takes out all of William's guards. She then tricks William into the pool, where she shoots him in the legs to give the sharks a taste of the red liquid. Soon afterward, Ross puts a call through to Richard. He asks him for undenied access to Catalea's database, but Richard refuses him. Richard tells Ross to file a formal request and hangs up on him. A quick scene shows Marco and his goons arriving in Chicago. Upon returning to Chicago, Catalea visits Danny's place, but finds out that he is out on a business trip. Danny leaves a letter for her that he'll be back the next day. Meanwhile, Ross sees an image of Catalea in the police station recordings, but decides that the assassin can't be a woman. The next day, Danny arrives and he's happy to see Catalea. The duo make out, but Catalea still refuses to tell Danny about herself. The next morning, Danny takes a picture of Catalea while she's asleep. Soon afterward, Catalea meets up with Emilio at the library. He berates her for being reckless and says Catalea will put them in danger. Emilio says Don Lewis is already terminating some of his friends and he's getting close to finding them. The duo has a fallout and Emilio leaves in anger. Up next, Danny and his friends are seen having a cup of coffee in a restaurant. Danny tells his friend that all he has of his girlfriend is a picture. He then shows his friend the picture and Danny sees the cops writing him a parking ticket and steps outside. His friend then sends the picture to his sister-in-law working in the police to run a background check on her. As she does so, Ross gets a hold of the database. Meanwhile, Catalea is seen paying a visit to Emilio and her grandmother. Ross matches the image with the one from the station and sees that it is a perfect match. The agency immediately traces Danny's call to Catalea and they're able to pinpoint her location. Soon afterward, Catalea realizes that her location is compromised when she sees dozens of police arriving at her apartment complex. She sneaks out through the stairs and enters another apartment before blowing up a wall to get to the building's garage. She then finds her way to the subway and uses the tunnels to escape the police. Catalea immediately goes to Emilio's place, but finds out that he and her grandmother have been brutally terminated by Don Lewis's men. She gets heartbroken and starts crying bitterly. Later that night, Catalea pays Ross a visit. She tells Ross to help her find out about Lewis's whereabouts or she'll terminate his entire family. The next day, Ross goes to Richard's office to ask for his assistance, but he refuses. As he's about to leave the office, she informs Ross that she has a gun aimed at Richard and that if he refuses to help her, she'll terminate him. Richard immediately gives up Don Lewis's location. Catalea then goes to the warehouse to pick up the things she needs for her assault against Don Lewis. The next scene shows Don Lewis and his goons preparing for Catalea when a rocket hits the building. Catalea then starts taking out each of the goons. She finally gets a chance with Marco and the duo engage in a fierce fight. Marco is about to shoot Catalea, but she jams the gun in his hand and punctures him in the neck with it. However, Don Lewis manages to get into a black van and starts driving away. Catalea then calls him using Marco's phone. Don Lewis starts boasting that Catalea will never find him. Just then, Catalea tells him that he is exactly where she wants him. Don Lewis looks back and sees Catalea's dog looking at him. Catalea then orders the dogs to terminate Don Lewis, and they do so immediately. In the next scene, Danny is seen in the FBI interrogation room. He receives a call from Catalea when Ross steps out of the room. The duo have a brief conversation in order to prevent the agency from tracing the call. The movie comes to an end as Catalea catches a bus heading to nowhere. Thanks for watching, guys.